You ever press play on Marvin, Aretha, Stevie and think, nobody's making stuff like this anymore? But what if I told you they are? You're not hearing it on the radio. Today we're digging into 10 modern R&B bands that sound like lost 70s classics with a twist. Coming up at number 10, Lake Street Dive. Lake Street Dive is the band you show your "I only listen to real music" friend when you're trying to prove a point. They started out as jazz kids, but what they make now feels like the spiritual cousin of 70s pop soul and blue-eyed R&B.
Oh, leave me.
Real drums, real bass, real horns, and Rachel Price's voice doing that big groan, no auto-tune thing you probably miss. Start with Good Kisser. If someone slipped this onto a mixtape between Hall & Oates and a Jackson 5 deep cut, you wouldn't blink. The groove is tight, the melody is classic, and the storytelling has that playful, slightly dramatic flair 70s singles were built on. Then try Hypotheticals.
Gets caught in the rain sometimes.
This one feels like a lost radio hit from 1975. Horn stabs, warm bass line, and a chorus that lands on the first listen.
Don't take me to the grave.
If you grew up on hooky, well-written songs you could sing in the car, Lake Street Dive will feel instantly familiar but not dated. Number 9, Moonchild.
I hate that I can't tell you. Love gets in if you never know.
If Lake Street Dive is your sunny, windows-down pick, Moonchild is the late-night one. This is the band for people who love the softer side of 70s R&B.
Sorry that you tried to rewrite this.
The Minnie Riperton, Roy Ayers, quiet album tracks you never skipped. Everything they do is built on Rhodes keys, gentle horns, and these featherlight vocals that sit on top of the groove instead of fighting it. Put on the list and just let it play.
Call me, baby. Tell me that.
The beat is simple, the chords are warm, and it has that same intimate, slightly bittersweet feeling as those mellow 70s slow jams you'd leave on while the room went dark.
Too much for me today.
Then go to Cure, which leans even more into that rainy day, jazz soul space, rich harmonies, relaxed tempo, and a bass line you feel more than you notice. If you ever wished modern R&B would calm down, breathe, and just simmer again, Moonchild is exactly that. New faces, old soul energy. Next at number 8, The Internet.
I can turn you on with my dirty mind.
If Moonchild is the candlelit slow burn, The Internet is the late night house party once everyone's migrated to the couch. They're technically alt R&B, but at the core, they're a real soul band. Drummer, bassist, guitarist, keys, and Sid's calm, unbothered voice floating over everything.
Better act like you know who I am.
It's the same live-in-the-room energy 70s bands had, just with modern drums and production. Play Under Control first.
Greatness, effort, critics, advice, they hating 'cause I'm
Close your eyes and it feels like one of those laid-back album cuts you'd find halfway through a classic Stevie or Isley Brothers record. Unhurried groove, warm chords, and lyrics about trying to keep love steady without turning it into a soap opera. Then put on Girl.
Hey, darling, I gotcha.
The beat is more electronic, but the soul is still there. Hypnotic bass line, simple hook, and so much space in the mix you can actually relax.
Tell them you're my girl.
If you miss when R&B knew how to be smooth without being cheesy, The Internet hits that exact pocket. Those first 3 might feel like gentle callbacks to the past. This next band steps out sounding so much like a lost 70s soul act that you'll double-check the release date. Number 7, Mama's Gun. Mama's Gun is that moment you drop the needle and go, wait, this isn't from 1974. They're openly obsessed with classic soul, Bill Withers, Marvin, all that conscious, warm, band-led R&B, but they're writing about burnout, loneliness, and modern life. Start with This Is the Day.
My shoulder, see a tree of broken dreams.
It's the kind of optimistic mid-tempo soul track you'd expect on side A of a feel-good 70s record. Bright horns, steady groove, and a chorus that feels like a hug and a pep talk at the same time. You can almost hear it crackling out of an old car radio. Then check out Party for One. On paper, it's about being alone, but musically, it's pure analog soul. Clean guitar, live drums, subtle keys, and a melody that feels instantly familiar. If you miss when soul music could be hopeful and honest without sounding corny, Mama's Gun is proof that style of songwriting didn't die. It just changed clothes. Next up, number 6, Jungle. If you missed the feeling of a packed 70s dance floor, Jungle is basically that memory with a fresh coat of paint. They build everything around groove, tight drums, thick bass, falsetto vocals, and arrangements that feel like a love letter to disco and funk without sounding like a cover band. Hit play on Busy Earning. The horns, the claps, the way the rhythm section locks in. It's the kind of track that could sit between Earth, Wind and Fire and Chic on a playlist, and nobody would flinch. Then try Casio. It's smoother and more laid back, but the DNA is the same. Shimmering keys, layered harmonies, and a bass line that quietly runs the whole show. If your favorite 70s R&B memories involve roller rinks, mirror balls, and sweat, Jungle will feel weirdly familiar from the very first chorus. Let's pause a bit. If even one of these bands has you thinking, all right, that actually sounds legit, hit like and subscribe. It really supports the channel and tells the algorithm there are still people out here who care about real R&B. And this next band brings back the weird of the 70s, sliding into the list at number 5. Hiatus Coyote. The band your favorite session musician is probably already obsessed with. They call it Future Soul, but under the label it's pure 70s jazz funk DNA. Wild chords, shifting grooves, and a rhythm section that sounds like it grew up on Stevie, Herbie, and every dusty fusion record in the crate. Start with Nakamura. It's their most welcoming doorway in. A warm, mid-tempo groove that feels like a lost 70s jam session, just with Napalm's slightly off-center melodies, giving it this dreamy, otherworldly twist. Then go to Breathing Underwater. This is where it gets cinematic. Long build, emotional vocals, and those harmonic left turns that make musicians grin. If you were the person replaying complex sections on vinyl trying to hear what they did there, Hiatus Coyote will feel like a whole new puzzle to enjoy. Taking the number 4 spot today is Gabriel's. This is the band you put on when you want soul to feel like a full movie again, not just a playlist. They build everything like a scene. Strings, choirs, piano, and Jacob Lusk's voice just tearing through the mix like a lead character. This isn't background music. It's main event energy. Start with Love and Hate in a Different Time. It It has that same timeless weight as old spirituals and 70s message songs, just filtered through a modern lens. Then put on Angels and Queens. This one is darker, more cinematic, like if Isaac Hayes and a gospel choir scored a prestige drama.
Give me something to soothe all of my doubt.
Big strings, dramatic chords, and vocals that sound ripped straight out of a 70s concept album. But this next band is the moment the film burns, the colors explode, and psychedelic soul kicks the door. Holding down the number 3 spot, we've got Black Pumas. The band you play for someone who says, "I miss when soul sounded raw." Everything about them feels like a record you'd find in a dusty crate. Gritty vocals, fuzzy guitars, and grooves that move slow but hit deep. Start with Colors. It builds like a classic 70s soul anthem, simple chords, a steady pulse, and lyrics that feel bigger than just one person's story. It's one of those songs that sounds like it's always existed, like you just finally caught up to it. Then jump into Fire. This is where the psychedelic side comes out. Sharper guitar, more drive in the drums, and backing vocals that give it that gospel meets bar band vibe. If you grew up on Curtis Mayfield, Bill Withers, or the more spiritual side of Funkadelic, Black Pumas will feel like somebody quietly continued that lineage while nobody was looking. Finally, the runner-up, Silk Sonic.
If you smoke, what you smoke, I got the haze. And if you're hungry,
Runner-up today is Silk Sonic. And honestly, this is the easiest pitch to any 70s fan. Bruno Mars and Anderson .Pac basically built a whole project around the idea. What if we made a 1974 R&B record? In 4K, everything is analog, live, and dripping. With that velvety late-night vibe, start with Leave the Door Open. This could slide straight into a Quiet Storm radio block between the Stylistics and the Delphonics, and no one would panic. Slow tempo, lush strings, layered harmonies, and melodrama in the best way. Then spin Fly As Me. This is the funk flip, James Brown strut, Bootsy level bass line, and that talk-sung swagger 70s bands used to have on stage. It's tight, punchy, and built for live horns and sweaty clubs. If you miss when R&B was equal parts romance, showmanship, and groove, Silk Sonic is basically proof that the 70s never really left. They just got a sharper suit. Topping the list at number 1, we've got Duran Jones and the Indications. The band that will make a 70s soul fan stop mid-scroll and just listen. They don't just borrow the sound, they carry the same heart you hear in Marvin, Curtis, and the Impressions. Social pain, romance, hope, all wrapped in strings and harmony. Start with Morning in America. It plays like a modern answer to those 70s message songs, smooth groove, horns, and lyrics, walking through everyday struggle without losing beauty.
It's Morning in America.
Close your eyes and it sits right next to What's Going On and inner city blues on an emotional level. Then let Is It Any Wonder wash over you. Slow, tender, full of falsetto and tape-warm drums, it feels exactly like a Lost 45 you'd hand wash and play on a Sunday. If you've ever thought nobody's making real soul anymore, this is the band that proves you wrong in 2 songs flat. Already added at least 1 new band to your queue? Hit like, drop your decade in the comments, and tell everyone which track you're pressing play on first tonight. That feedback keeps this kind of deep dive content alive. And if you want to stay in that time machine a little longer, check out the next video where we dive into a stack of mid-70s one-hit wonders that radio basically abandoned. Click over, keep the speakers on, and I'll meet you in 75.